Hey, hello, welcome to this new Flutter tutorial, and today we're going to be creating this customized navigation drawer in Flutter. So this sort of navigation drawer, material navigation drawer, is an Android thing basically, but using Flutter we can create this effect in both for both Android and iOS. In Android you have to do kind of a lot of stuff to get this going if you're not using the template, but in Flutter it's kind of really simple and really easy. You can build this whole thing using scaffold and adding customized widgets to it. So I'll be guiding you through the process of creating this sort of nice looking drawer which has kind of a header there with an image and a text, and these customized items, list items, which create this ripple effect of deep orange or any color that you might need. So you do not get this sort of effect out of the box. You have to create the things yourself. So I'll be guiding you through the process of creating all these customizable things that you might need in your applications. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so now we are in a fresh project given to you by Android Studio. I've cleared out the main .dart file. Usually there is an application here that is given to you as a sample. I've cleared that file and I've imported the material.dart file, Dart package, and I've created a void main function with a run app function that calls the material app. Now we're going to create a new class that is called home screen that extends a stateless widget. Okay, so this home screen is basically the home of our application defined in the material app. So for the home screen, I'll be adding the missing override. As you can see that the home screen is a stateless widget because we're not gonna go into anything that affects the state of the widget. So I'm just, for the simplicity's sake, I'm just using the stateless widget. Okay, so for the home screen we're adding a scaffold so that as a root widget, so that we can use all the features like app bar. So I'll be adding a new app bar that says the title of that says the title of text drawer tutorial, and I'll be setting the background color to colors.deep-orange. As you can see that in the tutorial, in the sample application I do have the deep orange color in the app bar. I'm using this as the theme of form applications. So okay, at this point when I run this application, you can see that when I save this and I run this application, we have this drawer new app with a drawer tutorial title on the deep orange app bar. Now there is a simple way of adding a drawer to your applications in Flutter, and that is simply by using drawer property of the scaffold. Okay, you can simply add a new drawer like an app bar. For drawer, you can create a new drawer. Drawer is also a new widget in Flutter. So the drawer takes a new child. So what a child of a drawer will be, it will be a list of items that will contain a header and a list of navigation buttons that you further would link to your navigation or any other sort of thing that you sort of actions that you want to perform when the person clicks on the drawer buttons. So for the drawer, we'll add a new child of list view. I'll be creating a simple list view because we know that the items that we're going to add to the drawer are finite. Otherwise we'll be using list.builder because it takes in account the items that are being shown on the screen, but in this case we only need to add 5 to 6 items, so we know the count, and it doesn't really affect the efficiency of the application. So in this case I'll be adding new children to the list view. For the first children, you can add sort of a material. Okay, so you can add a customizable header also, but Flutter also gives you a drawer header. This drawer header is basically a widget that is given to you by Flutter itself to add as a header to the drawer. Okay, so for the child of the drawer header, I'll be adding a simple text for now. Simple text that says this is drawer header. Okay, so other than the drawer header, we'll be adding a new list tile. The list tile is just for now so that I can just explain you how the drawer works. So in the list tile, I'll be adding a new I'll be adding a new title that says text. This is tile 1, and I'll be adding just I'll be copying this list tile, copy, comma. I'll be adding this list tile a few other times. Okay, so now we can see that there is sort of a hamburger icon on the top left hand corner of the application that when we click on this hamburger, we are presented with a drawer. It is simple as that you can just add a new drawer property to the scaffolds and add a new drawer there, drawer widget that contains the drawer header. So at this point, we can't really see that the boundaries of the drawer header. So we can clearly see that the tiles are there. This is tile 1. I forgot to change the numbering there, but okay. So we'll be customizing this drawer header first. To make it look more like this, we'll be adding a gradient to the drawer header so we can clearly see the boundaries that the drawer header holds. Okay, so for now, we'll be going to the drawer header. In the drawer header, I'll be adding decorations. That is another property of the drawer header, and for this we'll be adding box decoration and a new gradient. So for the gradient, I'll be adding a new gradient, linear gradient. So there are a few other types of gradients like radial and steep, so I'll be using the linear gradient. And for the colors, I'll be adding a new list. So the list will be of type color, and I'll be adding to the list colors dot deep orange, and the second color we want to be colors dot orange accent. Okay, so the gradient will go from deep orange to orange accent. That are the two containing colors of the list. So I'll just save this and we'll see what happens. Okay, so now we have a list drawer, drawer header that has a gradient that is going from deep orange to orange accent color. So this is looking really good. We'll leave this as it is so that we can customize the items first. So as you can see right now, we have the list tile, and even if we add on tap method to this list tile and give it an empty function, and I save this, so you can see that the ripple effect that is being shown here is not really quite catchy. Okay, so we want to create sort of customizable list items which we can use at any other place in our application. We want our list items to look like this, and to achieve this using the list tile is completely possible, but it's quite a painful experience. So we'll just create a customized widget and we'll use that in our application. So for that, I'll just come out of the home screen class. I'll create a new class called customized custom list tile, and that will extend a stateless widget. So in this, I'll be adding the missing override, that is the build method as usual, and in the return, I'll be adding a new, what should we add? We'll be adding a new Inkwell. Okay, so Inkwell is another widget that is given to you by the Flutter SDK. It is sort of a button with an on tap, on double tap properties and many other properties that can, you can see that it has on tap, children, border radius, custom border, and on double tap, on long press. It's kind of a customizable button. You can customize this to really a great extent so that you can get the feel that you want to show in your application. So for our use case, we'll be adding a new child to it at this point, and we'll be keeping it a row. Okay, so we'll be keeping it a row because in our application we want to show an icon, a profile, and a right arrow, and we want them to be in a horizontal alignment that is given to you by the row widget. So for the row, I'll be adding the children property, and for the icon, I'll be adding icons dot person, just for testing purposes, and for text, I'll be adding simple text calling profile, and a new icon that sort of says icons dot arrow right. Okay. So at this point, this custom list tile is not really customizable because I have just provided hard-coded values to its contents, but I'm using this just for testing. So we'll replace the second list tile with custom list tile so that you can see the difference. So I'll be creating a new custom list tile, and when I save this, okay, so now when I run this application, you can see that the second tile in the drawer is containing an icon, a profile, and another icon that is the arrow right. Okay, so we want to customize this tile so that it can more look like this instead of just all the icons mushed together on the left hand side of the drawer. Okay, so for achieving this, I'll be going back to the Inkwell. So for the row, I'll be adding the main axis alignment, and for the main axis alignment, that is the x-axis of the row, I'll be adding the main axis alignment dot space between. So when I save this, you can see that all the items are sort of aligned. The space between all the items is given evenly. So for achieving this type of effect, where the icon is right, where the profile, the text is right adjacent to the icon, and the other icon, that is the arrow, is on the extreme right, we'll be taking first two properties, that is the icon, the main icon, and the text, and instead of them I'll be adding a new row, because for the row the default property is that all the items are aligned to the left hand side. I'll be adding a new children property, and in there I'll be adding the icon and the text that were outside of it. So when I save this, you can see that the first icon and the profile are on the extreme left hand side, and the other icon is on the right hand side, but the size of the tile is not quite right at this point. So for that, I'll be increasing the size of the text by adding style to it, called with the text style, and for this I'll be adding font size. I'll keep this at 20. Sorry, 20 is more than enough. 15.0 maybe. So when I save this, the size has increased but not quite much. I'll be keeping this 16. Okay, so that is acceptable, and the text is sort of right adjacent to the icon. We want some padding to be there for the text, so I'll wrap the text with a new padding. I'll save this now, and you can see that it is starting to look a bit like the example that we're talking about. So at this point you can see that the alignment is quite right, but the padding of the list items is not quite good. And when we tap on the items, nothing happens. There is no ripple effect. That is the property of Inkwell. So for achieving that sort of ripple, first we have to activate the onTap method. So in the Inkwell, above the child, I'll be adding onTap method, and for now I'll be keeping this empty. And when I save this, you can see that now I can click on the item, and there is sort of ripple effect, but that is quite dim, and it's not quite attractive at this point. Okay, so at this point, the icons in the tile, the items in the tile are not quite padded. The profile is padded from the icon, but the whole of the tile is not quite padded nicely. I need to add some padding to the Inkwell itself. I'll add some padding of 8, and when I run this, you can see that the items are nicely padded. And as we're applying the edge and sets to all the sides of the Inkwell, we don't want this to happen. We want the padding to be on the right hand side and the left hand side. So I'll use edge insets dot from LTRB, left, top, right, bottom. So for the left, I'll be adding 8.0. For the top, I'll be adding 0. For the right, I'll be adding 8.0. And for the bottom, I'll be adding 0. So when I save this, you can see that there is not quite noticeable change, but it does make it better. So what we want to make now is the Inkwell, the default way the Inkwell works is, or any widget works, is that it tries to take minimum space that is required to cover its children. So at this point, I want to add a container to the Inkwell with a defined height. Okay, so I wrap the row with a new container, and the container is given a height of let's say 40. So when I run the application now, you can see that it is not quite noticeable here, but when I change the color of the Inkwell, so I'll change the splash color. The splash color defines the color of the ripple effect. So I'll add colors dot orange accent, and when I save this, you can see that the Inkwell is really looking nice, and it is covering more space than it was before because we have added a container that has a height of 40. So Inkwell will have to have a minimum height of 40 and the width of the drawer. So this sort of effect is really nice. And what I'm noticing is that we need to change all the items to the custom list tile. I'll delete all these list tiles. Custom list tile, comma, I'll copy both of these, copy, and I'll just put them there. Okay, so now save and run this. You can see that all the items are really nicely padded, and the ripple effect is looking really nice. So what I will do now is, we don't want all the items to be same. We want to customize the custom list tile, make it customizable. So I'll add the constructor to the custom list tile called custom list tile, and here I'll pass this dot icon, the icon and that should be there on the left hand side, the main icon, and this dot text, whatever we want to be the text of the tile, and this dot on tap, whatever action we want to perform whenever the list icon is a list tile is clicked. So I'll be adding a new icon data that is sort of the first argument of the icon here. The first argument is icon data. So I'll be adding a new icon data called icon and a string of text and a new function of on tap. Okay, so we have a constructor and we have the variables here in the class. Now we want to replace the hard-coded ones. So I put icon here, and for the text I put text. And for the right arrow we don't need to put anything, but for the tap, although we'll not be doing anything when we click on the item, but for the sake of it I'll be adding the on tap here. Which will be empty eventually, but okay, we have an error here. Okay, we want to fill the items, I forgot. So I'll add icons dot person, and I'll add the text of profile and an on tap method that says empty. We don't want to perform anything yet. So I'll copy this and I'll just replace every one of the tile. And for the second tile, I'll be calling this notifications. and I'll be changing the text to notification, and the third to settings, the icon to settings, and the fourth to log out. And for some reason I wasn't able to find out log out icon. I don't know why is that, but I'll just replace that with lock for now. You can add your custom icons to it, but I'm not going that way. So I'll use log out as the text, and when I save this, you can see that all the items are really looking nice with different text, different icons, and different arrows here. So what we want to do now is we want to increase the height of each list tile to sort of match this, and really it will look more clean than what we have now. And we want to add these horizontal lines between all the list items. So for achieving this, first we'll be adding the padding. So for padding, I'll increase the container height to 50 maybe. And when I save this, yeah, you can see that the items are more nicely padded, more evenly padded, because we are increasing the height of each tile, and it sort of matches with the padding that we have for the icons. So at this point we need to add that border, that line here. So for that I'll be going to the Inkwell. I'll just wrap the Inkwell with a container, and I'll be adding a new box decoration. So box decoration does have a property called border. So in the border I'll be adding a new border that says that has a top that does take a border side, and I'll set the color to colors.gray for now. And when I save this, you can see that there are lines, but we don't want the line to be on top of each tile, because when the drawer header ends, we don't want the line to be there. So in the example you can see that the line is only between the items. So instead of adding the border to the top, I'll add border to the bottom. And I'll sort of decrease the shade of gray. Shade, I'll keep this 400, and when I save this, you can see that we have nice lines between the list items. Okay, so this sort of completes the bottom section. You can see that we have nice Inkwell effect, and all the items are looking really good in the bottom section, but this drawer header, it is not quite looking good. So what we need to do is we need to add an image and a text in the bottom so that it looks like this. We are using a Flutter icon, Flutter logo, and a Flutter written below it. Okay, so what I will do is we'll go to the drawer section in the scaffold, and in the drawer header, what I will do is I'll replace the child. So okay, at this point I'll be adding a new container here, and in the container I'll be adding a new child that says column. That is the column, and for the column I'll be adding the children property, and for the children I'll be adding a new image. So what to expect from this image is that we want this sort of rounded icon that contains the image. So for this rounded field I'll be adding a new material and for this material I'll be adding a new child of the image. But at this point we don't have an image in the application, so for that I'll be commenting out this code for now. And what I will do is I'll just go to the root directory, and there I'll be adding a new directory called images. Okay, and for the images I'll be going to the folder, and I'll just copy this Flutter logo, and to the images I'll be adding this folder. I'll be adding this image, flutter-logo.png. So we'll go to the pubspec.yaml file, and there we need to define the image to be used in the application. So I'll just comment off all these things, and there we have -image -flutter-logo.png. So this is sort of the way to define the assets in Flutter. So when I save this, you can see that there is the get dependencies. That means that the application built successfully, because in pubspec.yaml file there is a lot of issues which comes with the spacing. So you need to space the items evenly, and that's the reason I just pasted it beforehand, so that I don't have to face those kind of errors if they come. Okay, so I'll just close this pubspec.yaml file, and I'll go to the material, and here now I can use, I'll just uncomment the child, and for the child I'll be adding new image dot asset, and here I'll be for the first argument I'll be adding the path, that is the images dash flutter sorry, I'll be adding flutter dash logo dot png, and for the width I'll be giving the 100, and for the height I'll be giving the 100. So at this point, when I run this application, you can see that the material does have the material does give you a white background, but it is not quite rounded. So for that rounding feel, what we want to do is, for the material we want to add a border radius, and we want to add a border radius dot all, and for the radius I'll be adding a new radius dot circular of we'll keep this 50.0, and I save this. So you can see that now there is nice borders around the material. Okay, so it gives it sort of a rounded feel here. At this point the icon is sort of protruding out of the material, but we want to keep it inside. So I'll just add some padding to the image, and for some reason the IntelliSense doesn't work here, so I'll just cut the code and I'll add a new padding, and in the padding I'll add new edge insets dot all and give it a value of 8.0, and for the child of the padding I need to add a comma there, and for the child of the padding I'll be adding that image. And when I save that, you can see that it is not quite round anymore. Why is that? Because when we created that circular feel, our image was having the width and height of 100. And the image will keep that width and height of 100, but it will also add padding. So now the height and the width is 108. Okay? So the 100 plus 8, so it is 108. So what we want to do now is we want to decrease the width and height of the image. We'll keep this around 80, and when I save this, you can see that the material is now rounded. To the material I'll be adding elevation. That is of 10, and when I save this, yeah, you can see that the material is raised up, and it gives nice look and feel to the material app that we're going to create. So below this I'll be adding a new text. So in the column children I'll be adding a new text. Sorry, it was outside the widgets. I'll add a new text here that says Flutter, and I'll be adding a new style that says that takes a text style, and I'll change the color of the text to colors.white, and a font size to be 25.0. And when I save this, you can see that there is a nice image, and below that there is Flutter, but there is no gap there. So I'll be rounding the text with a new padding. So for the padding, I'll be adding edge insets dot all dot 8.0, and for the child I'll be adding that text. I want to save this. There is spacing issue. I'll just decrease the padding. Oh, sorry. I'll just keep the padding 8.0. I'll decrease the size of the text in this case. I'll keep this 20, and when I save this, you can see that the Flutter is really looking nice below the image, and we have all the tiles that are customized to our design pattern. Okay, so today we learned how to create this sort of customized drawer in your application with an image, a title, and a header, and sort of these customizable list tiles where you can add icons and text and other icons and all these nice Inkwell effects, that is sort of the ripple of different colors. So I taught you how to use Inkwell and different widgets like drawer and drawer header and all these sort of things. So now you will have a clear understanding of how to implement the navigation drawer in Flutter that can be used in both Android and iOS. So hope you learned a lot, and I'll see you next time.